It's starting now. All right, here's part two of the draft recap. We got Peter here. Mike might join us after. So what up, Peter?
What's going on? I'm here to bring a little civility back to the part two of this. I know it was you and Mike on the first one, but podcast can be a
Mike,
little bit smarter.
before the call, Mike actually told me that he was tired and he didn't want to stay on long, so he was kind of tame. And now he's being a little bitch, and he says he's got to go sleep and shit. So we'll
when
see if he
when I
joins. I
first
think he
started,
will.
I was saying when I first
Go ahead.
started listening to the first one, I thought you guys were gonna go off at hokey right off the bat, and you guys definitely kept it tame.
No, I asked, oh, what's your thoughts on the first one pick? He goes, yeah, he's good.
Yeah, I heard that. I was like, man, you gotta chime in
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit more than that.
yeah. Mark Early is he's good.
So I guess
That,
we'll sort of
that's all
jump
you got.
right into
Yeah,
the obvious things.
yeah. So yeah, tell me your thoughts on the first round, or just any thoughts you have about the draft in
But
general.
like we talked about this a little bit, but like the first takeaway I had just from like listening to the first pod, you were talking about Santana has to be the first pick. Well, you didn't say he has to be the first pick. It'd be like if I had the first pick, if I traded up, I would have taken Santana.
Yeah, because he's the
And I
only Hall
think,
of Famer in this group. I'm telling
well, he could be a Hall of Famer. I'd put his odds at the Hall of Fame at like 7%, which is pretty
you. That's
high.
pretty
Like
freaking high.
like 7% is pretty damn
We've
good.
seen in winter ball that there were two ones back to back. So I think 7% is actually really good. Like odds you just put on this cat.
I don't do winter ball, so I don't even know what a one means. I don't know. That could be
All
really
right,
good or really
you really
bad.
don't,
I have
you
no
don't do winter
idea.
ball? You don't do winter ball, dude? Like what?
No,
What do you mean? Like how do you
I've
not do?
been
How do you not do winter ball?
because I was like in the red so many years before I had my stadium, so I was poor as fuck and I didn't have any
Fucking
money. So I just got used to not doing it, and now like I'm still paying off my stadium, and I don't know. I don't really care. I've done fine without it.
I mean, that could be a difference of like, a game 7 championship, you know what I'm saying? So like,
It could be.
it
And then
could
the guy
be.
could also you could also get like your 3 point little jump and it makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside and you feel good. And then 6 sims later the guy randomly drops and you're like, wow, cool.
Yeah, yeah, but that warm and fuzzy could be that extra homer that you need in the World Series.
Oh my God.
One day after
Yeah.
you pay off for the stadium. All right,
Yeah.
so um,
Anyways, I digress. So
yeah,
I think Audley was like the right pick. Audley is a good pitcher. He's like the you want the health like right around there. Like 80 health is probably like ideal, but 75 to 80 health, you're not like having that eat into like your overall rating a ton. He's got the projectable control. He's got pretty good high school stats, and he's 16 years old. So I mean, they're gonna obviously have to be patient. You're gonna be talking about 8 to 10 years before he sees the majors. I mean, if you're being like
yeah,
conservative, I mean, some of these guys have made it at 21, 22, so that'd be a kind of a shorter window. But I think as long as you hold out on the timeline with him, he'd be a good pitcher, number one and number two when it comes down to it.
yeah. I mean, I'll tell you about Audley. Like, I don't see that he's going to be the clear-cut ace. Like, wow, only because I'm looking at him. I don't see anything that jumps out the screen. I don't see a dominant I don't see a dominant change. I don't see a dominant curve. Everything's just kind of just balanced. So I think it's just gonna be a balanced. Like he's gonna be a good starter, no doubt. But I think it's just gonna be a good number 3, number 4 down the road, which is great. And if sorry, this is a Hokie pick. If Stang Stocky builds around that, that's awesome. But I don't think you got a clear cut ace in Audley, in my opinion. But
Yeah,
he's
I
16
think
years old though, so I mean I'll tell you in about 5 real years when he's when he's finally ready to play in the majors.
yeah, I think it's tough to put too much stock into the like the quality of the pitches right now at 16 because one of those pitches can hit in the spring training where it says improved pitch and then all of a sudden it's like way above his overall and it's really
Yeah,
good. So
yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
yeah, so that's hard to even really care about at this point. When a guy's that young, you just sort of take him and worry about the pitches later.
All right, what'd you think about the Hokie weight?
Oh God, I mean, it probably didn't have that much of an effect on like the timeline of the draft, but just like I think everybody sort of felt the same. Like if you know, like no one has like a spur. He said he had a wedding. Like no one has a spur of the moment wedding. Like if you have a wedding the next day, you know you're getting ready for the wedding the next day. Like, why don't you take 3 seconds and tell someone instead of just like leaving FCM like as a whole with their thumb up their butts? Like, okay, we're waiting on you. Like, how about you not be a selfish prick and fucking let us know what's going on?
We had a couple trade offers, so you never know.
Oh my god, like that is such bullshit.
Just playing
Like,
devil's advocate, man.
oh man, like with like sort of like the feeling around this draft is like, oh, the top of this is so weak. Like if he has honestly had hope of a trade, he is just dreaming.
Well, maybe he was trying to get people to buy into the whole, hey, pick Kent Monroe here, because
Hmm.
people are big on Kent Monroe. And obviously, he
I
was
just
available
I just think he didn't give a
after
damn.
Aldi was taken. What?
I'm just saying he didn't. He just didn't give a damn. He was just being selfish.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too. Okay.
Anyways, I didn't think much of either of his picks. It's pretty funny that I know Maddie left a comment about Takahashi. He's like, well, he's like an Asian pitcher, so his upside is basically capped at that.
I don't.
Asian pitcher in
I
the
really
Hall of
don't.
Fame.
I don't get this Asian pitcher like hate.
Uh, I I I kind of know where Maddie's coming from just because I've played Mogul for a long time, and it sort of felt like that was like sort of a thing for a long time. I could be wrong,
So
but I
let me
mean, it's sort of
stop you there. You think I'm crazy for doing this whole picture thing, but you guys have this Asian hey, he's gonna suck because he's Asian type shit.
I don't
Meanwhile,
think, I mean,
oh,
Asian doesn't mean like he sucks, but it sort of caps the upside. I think there's a hint of truth to that.
well, I think there's some truth to my whole picture theory. So,
Uh,
all right, any notable first round picks you want to talk more about?
Chris Exum, he was probably a guy that I was thinking more in line of 10 to 15, but I totally get why Oakland went with him at 6. I mean, he was after oddly, he was my second pitcher on the board, so I have no problem with going 6.
Yeah, you could say oddly 2.0 there.
Yeah, I mean, there's some similarities there. I don't think they're identical, and I don't think they'll play out identical, but I definitely like Exum a lot. I like him. I mean, oddly would have been the pick over Exum 10 times out of 10 for me. There would have been no debate there, but Exum's certainly a good 1A.
And see, the one thing that jumps out with me with Exum is, like I said about Oddly before, like Exum has two pitches well above his overall that's going to keep going, and they're two really good pitches when you have a ground ball guy, a circle change and a sinker. So I'm not saying that Exum is going to be better than Oddly or anything like that, but he's the type of guy I would like um, moving forward when those two develop. Um, yeah, I think he's going to be a hell of a player. It was a good pick.
Yep.
This is like an upside draft anyway, in my opinion. So you
So
can get
the
your
other guy that I think he's interesting in his own sort of way, and you and Mike just like sort of railed on him. The 16-year-old pitcher that went to Seattle, Joel Smith.
go on.
Uh, just
I
the
hate him. I
I
hate him.
I
I hate him.
understand that, and I think Mikey he called them perplexing, and I think that was actually a pretty good word for him because his amateur stats are pretty damn good. I
They
know
are. They're
I know he's
great.
a 73 as a 16-year-old, and that may affect it, but I think he has like he's either gonna be like really good or total shit, and like the
My
really
thought
good
is
maybe sits at
total shit.
like 10 to 15% chance of happening, but like I think he does have like some chance of that happening of being really good. I think he's more likely to be shitty, but I don't want to just discount him right now.
I'm gonna say 100% shitty. I'm sorry. There's just too many.
Yeah, so that's where
There's just
we're 15% apart on shittiness.
there's just too much going on to represent that he's going to be shit. He's left-handed. Everything's
Yeah.
under his overall.
I hear you. That's like a perfect I didn't think he was going to go top 10. I thought like a lot of the feelings that you had were going to play into him dropping and dropping and dropping. Apparently that didn't happen, but um I think, yeah, like I said, he's got a small chance of being pretty good, more likely to be really shitty.
And I 100% think that due to overall being advanced, you're 70 overall going against some 50
Yep.
overall, 60 overall players, you're going to dominate. So I think
That could certainly play into it. So it'll be interesting to
you got to
monitor
take
how
those stats with a grain of salt.
that's sort of play out. Okay. Is there anything? I'm just.
Yeah,
It was weird for me because 11 through 20, like it was basically like no one on my list.
um,
So none of those guys really register to me. I mean, I'm sure some of them, maybe I overlooked some of them, but none of those guys really stood out to me as being particularly interesting picks.
yeah. I mean, after in my opinion, the top 5, 6, whatever, it's you pick your guy. There's no guy to trade up for and pick. Like this is the guy to pick. You just pick the
Mhm.
dude who just fit your minor league system and just play your style.
Yep.
What'd you think about your selection? We didn't get to talk because we got cut off at I think it was
So
Brewster.
I'm gonna sort of like take the 20 through 30 chunk and go over like two guys that I was sort of, I
Go
should
for it.
say two picks that sort of played into the picks that I was thinking about when my pick came up at 34. So one of the first guys I think you guys sort of touched on a little bit was James Smith, who went to Kansas City. He's a switch hitter and sort of his contact power and eye sort of are all in line with his overall right now.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have like a standout talent right now. I just think he's going to be really solid and he's going to give you flexibility on where you want to play him in the outfield going forward. So I think that's a good pick in this draft. James Smith, the center fielder. And the other guy that I thought would probably fall to 34, but he didn't, which doesn't surprise me given who took him, was Cameron Jones, the relief pitcher who went 32nd to Detroit. So he was a comp selection.
I was a big fan of Cameron Jones. I I wasn't anticipating him being selected in the first round. I thought he was gonna go, mid second, deep second, but
If he
yeah,
didn't go 32, I'm telling he would have went 34th to me. But
yeah,
we've seen sort of like this build with like the high control go like above slot based on how you would sort of interpret their peak. There's certainly been better guys. I don't have any names off the top of my head. Better sort of guys in this build that have gone in similar spots, but like this draft was sort of its own cat. But either way, Cameron Jones is like sort of guaranteed useful setup or closer, and that's
that's
if you're trading one of those guys, you can get a first rounder for one of them because no one's offering them. So in
extremely
terms of
valuable.
value, like, you're not
Hmm.
going to lose anything. Like this guy's going to be valuable no matter what.
Yeah, it's a smart play because obviously, really pitching is it's dead, and if you ever get your hands on a quality one, go for it.
Like I'm just thinking, like my own guy who's sort of like in the similar build of Cameron Jones, like Francisco Rivera. He's 31 now, and if I put him out there on the market, like I could easily get two first rounders for that guy.
Two first rounders, hot take.
I wouldn't even consider. I'm not trading them like two first rounders. I probably wouldn't even take it because like if you don't,
Well, you need them. You kind of need them.
yeah, like the types of teams that'd be into that sort of deal like don't have that relief pitcher. And I'm like, this guy's like one of 5 or 10 in the file right now.
Yeah, no,
So that's
I'm
like
with you.
sort of how Cameron Jones can play out.
So, Jamie Sperry, what'd you think? What'd you
Well,
see?
I wasn't overly nuts about ending up with a first baseman, but I mean, it's. I certainly take the approach with the draft is like I gotta let it come to me, and I'm not gonna. It's like, oh, if I want a pitcher on my eyes, I'm not gonna force that. I'm just gonna try to take the best guy on the board. So with him, he's one of those classic right-handed bats that people like to label me as like the right-handed guy. So here
You are the
here I
right
am
hand
with it.
guy.
Here I am with another right-hander, but I mean he's got this contact power and eye all above his overall right now. His fielding is meh. I mean, it's probably by the
He'll
time he's
play.
progressed, it probably looks like an average first baseman
Yeah,
defensively.
he can play first.
But the bat is really projectable. He's got a ton of upside. He's 18 years old, so it's sort of just the upside play. Like this guy, you can certainly project him to be really good. Let's see what happens.
So what you're saying is
What you're
AKA.
saying is AKA.
Why am I hearing a huge echo?
Why am I hearing a huge echo?
You sound fine.
Um, yeah, you're saying AKA. You're going to use him as trade bait.
Not necessarily. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, he can be a really good hitter.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I like the upside, but I feel like he could be a huge trade bait for you soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to trading him, but if he gets the right jumps, then maybe I become more attached. Like with my players, like I don't tend to get attached until maybe they're closer to the majors. Like, and then I'm like, then I get like the little hearts in my eyes, and I like, oh, this guy's gonna be my lineup next season. But I sort of hold the reins on that a little bit.
It's gonna take a while to get that heart in your eye.
Yeah.
All right, any second round, since we're deep in the second round now.
Well, we just
Any
cracked the second round.
Yeah, we just got. I'm saying now we're out of the first. We're getting to the second round.
Yep.
What pick player you want to highlight? Talk about. Oh, this is a good steal.
I was I had a little bit of interest in Sean Thompson. He went 33rd to Chicago, the White Sox.
Yep, and I'm with you there too.
He's interesting. I mean, he had sort of an unfortunate drop pre-draft. It doesn't look like it was like related to his birthday, but even so, the vitals are pretty
Well,
good.
April 24. You would think that's from the birthday.
Yeah, it appears that his overall drop, so it may not have been, but either way, I think the talent is there. If you're not opposed to taking a guy and like throwing him right in Double A, because that's sort of the level he's at already, given his age and sort of skill. But for me, that's not an issue. I mean, if the guy's more progressed, like there's no issue in that to me, given the guy still has. It's not like he has low upside looking at his player card.
Yeah, I'll tell you who he reminded me of when, in terms of where he was picked. A guy I took in one of the it was like 61 or 62 when I took Mel Jackson, the relief pitcher, who's now in Florida.
Do they have the same picture?
Right now. He looked like, with the free agency file, he looked like a great pitcher. He took a pretty significant drop, and that ended up him being selected in the second round. And I looked at him, I viewed him pre-draft as a first round pick.
Yep.
Then he dropped into the second. Sean Thompson, had he not dropped, he was going to be a first rounder, possibly even in the top 15.
Right.
Then once he took that drop, Chicago picked him up. Once he gets that jump, if it's this year or whatever, he's gonna look.
It has a legit shot at a jump later in the season,
and he's gonna look damn good.
Yep. I definitely agree with that. And just like back to the Mel Jackson thing, I think like he was coming out of the draft, like he was like a damn obvious pick of like this guy's obviously going to be really good.
And then once he took that drop, a lot of people skipped on him. Yeah, he went
Right.
39th overall to me, and that's about the same range where Thompson was picked. So I think he's gonna be one of those dudes where he's gonna take he has to jump instantly now. But once he does, he's going to be like, oh, why the hell did I skip on?
I agree. Like, if he misses a jump between now and next April,
he's fucked. Yeah.
He's fucked. But I don't see any reason to expect that, but it could happen.
It could happen. I'll tell you another pick I like, and Seattle. I know I hate on you for Joel Smith, but I like Nick Smith. He's not, peak-wise, you would think, oh, let's go for a higher peak guy, but you're picking a relief pitcher here. And he is, he has a low ground ball rate. He kind of reminds me of the guy who we picked last year from Atlanta, Sable, I think his name was. He doesn't have the dominant power rating, whatever. But if you look at the statistics, it looks like this person will have pretty good stats once he comes up.
So I had the same exact thought cross my head when I was scouting. I didn't remember the guy's name, Eric Sable, who went to Atlanta, but I was like, these guys are like the same exact build, and you see like the ground ball percentage is like insanely low, like based on like their initial player card. But it's like this guy's not giving up home runs. Like I don't know why it says it's so low. I don't know when it seems like when guys reach the majors, that sort of recalculates. I don't usually see it jump far from like the initial estimate, but it'll be interesting to see with these guys if like the ground ball percentage right now says 15-20, they get to the majors and all of a sudden it's like 45-50. I don't know. I don't know if that'll happen, but it's interesting to see where it is right now, where it's obviously not an issue with those guys.
Yeah, and it comes to show you that you have to look at relievers in a different way. You can't look at them as if they're a starting pitcher. You really have to look at their, in my opinion, you have to look at their stats. You have to, no matter who it is.
Yeah. I agree you have to look at their stats. I don't agree with what you just said, looking at them as starter relievers. I literally draft them as pitchers. I'll figure out whether they're starters or relievers later.
I mean, if you pick a guy like Smith, I don't think there's a chance of him becoming a starter. I don't think that.
If he progresses well enough, I wouldn't count him out of being a starter. I don't. Yeah, I mean that's just my philosophy. I draft pitchers, I don't draft starters or relievers.
I hear you, but anyway, I think Nick Smith is a quality pickup.
Yeah, that was a good pick by Seattle.
Second round.
Let's see anyone else catches my eye. It seems the second round was really strange for me, just because there was a lot of guys that sort of got rattled off that weren't even on my board. Like I just like didn't care about them one way or the other.
Another guy I had.
Let's talk about another Atlanta guy, LaFrosia. He went 58th overall to Atlanta. This is a guy that was on my list. I thought he was pretty projectable bat, and it's like another one of those guys that just has a pile of upside right now, and you can take the approach of like, okay, like let's see what jumps you can get.
Yeah. He has a picture of Nat Macy's, but I won't go into that. Also our first baseman I took years ago. But yeah, I mean he looks like he'll, have a power will be pretty average when it comes to first baseman. He looks like he'll have.
It'll be all up to jumps with this guy, because I mean with first baseman, like missing one jump makes you incredibly average among the positions. So it all comes down to jumps, and
right.
We're just talking about a lot of upside. So
he's got time there.
In the position
17.
I liked getting that sort of upside.
Right. And being 17, you got a little time. Another pick that I kind of highlighted, Rich Barber. At least he was on my draft board, depending where I was at. He's switch hitter, right field. And I think natural right fielders are sneaky hard to find.
Yeah, they're a little bit scarce when it comes to finding someone that you can feel good about in the field. Definitely, I agree with that.
Right field specifically, not a left field. No, specifically right field. Yep. It's a little different position if you look
there.
But yeah, Rich Barber. He when I look at the second round, I say, oh, who could crack the major leagues? Rich Barber. Looks like to me he has a pretty good shot.
Yep, I agree. The thing that sort of I do like Rich Barber, so I don't want to rail on him too much. The thing that sort of stands out to me is like he had a year with 0 home runs. So like when you think about what he might be able to do at the majors, like I think power will be an issue. So I think he's like maybe like a 10 home run guy, 15 home runs when he gets to the majors. Then it'll sort of cap his OPS. Like I'd be surprised if he ended up like over career 770 OPS.
Yeah, but I think he'll be a serviceable outfielder that will crack the majors. And he reminds me of a prospect I picked up a couple years ago, Marcus Mueller. Almost the same as James Smith too. Like the switch hitter, nothing jumps out at you. They're not a power hitter. They're not they're not Tony Gwynn.
Right.
They're just like an all-around decent player who can hit 750 to 800 OPS. But I think Barber's one of those cats. And being switch hitter, I mean, he's going to be in a lineup that if he finds a role bat in second, maybe he'll find success.
Yep. So switch hitter definitely adds that little extra boost. Let's jump into another guy that caught my eye just now. He was on my list, but I sort of just overlooked him when talking about this draft because unlike Mike from Kansas City, I'm going into this dry. I didn't do any show prep really, so I'm just sort of going on a whim. But Neil Galvin, who went, or Gavin or Galvin, whatever the hell his name was, he went 53rd to Colorado.
Mhm.
This guy, really good control, almost 20. It's 19 above his overall right now. Really high health. His endurance is middling right now, so he can go either way. If I was picking a direction for him, it would probably be to go to the pen.
Ooh.
The reason for this is with high health on pitchers, like as those guys progress, the health really starts to eat into like some of their growth. So I think he's more valuable in the pen than he is in the rotation when it all plays out. But either way, I think he's a good pitcher.
Yeah, look, and it seems like the movement will catch up to the control at some point. I think there'll still be a gap, but movement tends to develop a lot quicker
Hmm.
than other. Like his power is not going to be his power is kind of irrelevant. But I think it's interesting being that tweener, 52
Yep.
endurance, and that almost ensures you that the guy will be a actual reliever, not
Yep.
just some. But I wonder, like,
I
if
think he'll
you,
be a good reliever, but I think he'll have home run troubles in Colorado. I think he's
yeah,
not going to be like one of those elite ground ball guys that I think some GMs would look at him and just like sort of slot him in. Like this guy's an elite ground ball guy. He's got that 55% on his card right now. I don't think it's going to play out quite that way. I think he'll be more like 40, 45%. So maybe in Colorado he has a little bit of issues
yeah,
with the ground ball, but I think in the pen, like
and,
obviously this guy has a job.
and not only the ground ball, not the ground ball, the high home runs, is something that
It's
I would
just like a
highlight.
tad high right now.
The on base average is pretty high as well.
Yeah.
And with the guy with that gap, you see, um, guys who are in the major leagues right now who look fancy, but with that movement, with that controlled movement gap, you see that they give up a ton of hits.
Hmm.
So, we'll see if this guy corrects it, but we'll see. But it
Yep.
just
And
it look,
it's sort of nitpicking at this point. I mean, I agree with the points you're making, but he's probably one of the best on the board at this point. So obviously, like I feel good about like the pick that Cad made. It's just interesting to see how this guy plays out.
I'll tell you my next sneaky underrated. This guy could crack the majors. Maddie's pick of Jason Fuller. Yeah, I'm not big on picking lefties. I don't know Maddie is. Maddie loves picking lefties, but
There was
when
a
you
lot of lefties this year. There was a
right,
lot of
a
lefties
lot of
this
lefties, but I feel like there's a lot of pitchers in general that had the lower control. Jason Fuller is a guy who just looks like a well-rounded. You know, he's not going to be a power pitcher. I mean, like a guy who will strike out the world, but he
year.
will
Hmm.
have some strikeout ability. Um, the movement's good. He's not a ground ball guy, so the movement will it won't be the best part about him. But his control's high. He doesn't give up as many home runs. If you look at his high school and in college, he's been solid both ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you
Well,
look you look at his pitches, well-rounded arsenal.
my take on Fuller is like this guy needs to get to like 90 to be good. Um, I know sort of his build may not look that way, but when it comes to lefties, like their shit needs to be elite. Otherwise, they are just going to get railed on by the righties. That's just
Well,
sort of the nature of it.
I
Um,
feel I feel like he's in a good spot with Maddie because Maddie usually fields a good team, and if you look at his rotations over the years, lefties have found good. They found a home there.
I'm not, yeah,
Wimbush
I'm
Wimbush
not
has been there
like
for years.
anti-lefty like some of these guys. Like I like a lefty is the ace of my staff right now. Like he's probably the best five
But
pitcher in
he's
the
also
lineup right
he's
now.
also cut above the rest. He's a little different.
Yeah, but that's sort of how not this is like sort of hyperbole, but that's how good lefties need to be productive in this file. So when I look at Fuller, I just think maybe he doesn't have enough upside for that to happen. But at this pick number, I mean, how can you sort of rail against the pick? I mean, there isn't. You're not picking from diamonds at this point. You're picking guys with flaws. So he has flaws, but if he gets the right jumps, he can be really good. But my bet is he ends up as an 83 career 4.5 ERA, and he ends up on 6 different teams.
That's fair. But there are a lot of guys who end up in the Japan League. Who don't even get that far. I'm serious.
Yeah,
Like, you don't even get that far.
that would be better than that,
So
I think.
so if you pick a guy who you can who passes the eye test and be like, oh, I could see him in the major leagues one day, then you can't really hate on the pick as much.
Hmm.
Um, but moving on, since we're kind of late in the second, moving on to the third, I mentioned yesterday that Mike Wood, your selection was the steal of the draft. How in the world was this guy skipped on so many freaking times?
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, I figured a lot of GMs would sort of just be targeting these guys with a lot of upside, young guys like 17, 18 years old with just a lot of upside. Wood's one of those guys that has all of his base vitals over his overall. He is a good fielder at first baseman. He'll be above average as a first baseman. Um, there's just a lot of room for growth with him.
I think he's gonna be better than your other first baseman that you took.
Sperry,
Yeah, yeah,
he could be. I mean, it's certainly possible
I
with a
think
guy
so.
that young. I think Sperry will be better, but shock me one way or the other.
Um, Now they're in the third round. A guy that I had my eye on was, and I know people probably wouldn't like this, but shortstop Leonard Withy. You would think that, yeah, he's just a meh shortstop,
Who did you
but
say?
shortstop Leonard Withy went to
All
Seattle.
right. More Seattle talk, man. We've had too much talk about Seattle. This is getting
It's a
outrageous.
little high, but like the whole, hey, let's pick a major leaguer here. Withy's going to be a guy in the major leagues who's going to be a reliable glove. Who knows how well he can hit, but it seems like, if he hits his jumps, and I think he needs an immediate jump, that if he can get to a uh, 80 contact, it's not, I know it's a little bit high. I think Withy
Yeah.
I think Withy can carve out a good, solid major league career as a cheap shortstop
My
who has a good shortstop
my
ability.
general approach my general approach is, with the draft and sort of prospects is let's reach for the stars. Like, what is this guy?
Of course.
Best case scenario, what can this guy be? When I look at Withy, he is the epitome of low upside. This guy has no fucking chance of even getting to 80. So I look at Withy and I say I can find this as a free agent for $2 million a year, no problem,
Okay. No,
without wasting my time trying to develop a prospect. So Withy does nothing for me.
okay. I'm with you. I mean, if it, I guess we have a little different opinion on him, but I like the pick. You think
Do
you
you,
can find him?
do you think
What
he has any chance of getting to 80 overall?
needs a jump? But I'm gonna say I think he's gonna fall into the dreaded 79.
Yeah,
Every
so
shortstop falls
great.
into 79.
What does that get you? Like nothing.
Good you. All right. It does.
You can trade him for $3 million a couple years. Great, awesome, good job, good job,
All
Seattle.
right. So who reached? Well,
You just drafted $3 million.
per,
Awesome.
personally, I think I reached. I went with your theory to reach for the stars. I picked Justin Alex. I think if he hits his jumps, if
Yeah,
such and such happens, Justin Alex could be a guy who's like way better than Withy would ever be.
I had him like sort of slotted around later than he got picked, so I had him sort of in my mind targeted as a fourth rounder. I don't have a problem with going in the third round. He's sort of like Wood. He's got all of his main vitals over his overall. His fielding might have him relegated to DH. You're not going to feel real great about him in the
I,
outfield.
I was really picking the bat, not the glove, obviously.
Right. So he's certainly one of those guys like, okay, if this guy gets to 80 overall, his vitals are going to look really good. So he'll have a home if he can get that high, if he gets the right jumps. The guy that I was more interested in that you took in the third round was another lefty pitcher. We're going to talk about another lefty, Taylor Sobo. This guy, um, I was targeting him at some pick, and then I was pissed when he went off the board. I don't know exactly what pick, but Sobo was a guy that I liked a lot.
What I
Uh,
like about him, he has very, very nice upside. His stats are absolutely shitty. It
his
looks,
stats aren't that shitty.
um,
He's a
no,
52.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, yeah, the
Like
stats.
the stats were not a red flag for me. Like they were
They,
not a red flag for me at all. I thought they were decent enough that you can just sort of rely on the vitals. So let him linger in the
I,
pen, see how he progresses, and I
yeah,
feel like and he's gonna turn into like one of those short relievers that you feel pretty good about. You have someone knocking on your door, and if you'll trade him,
with you. And to go off of that, there's another pitcher who I was considering with Solo. Like if I want to pick him later in a draft or later in that round, but because I picked the reliever, I didn't. Wayne Coker, Baltimore. Another guy who could etch out a major league role. He's a little older, but relievers are just hard to
yeah,
reliever is just hard to
Coker
find.
didn't fall into that realm for me at all.
He his stats are weird because he started actually. No. He's a glitch. He's a glitch if you look at his stats. So you just gotta look how he
Yeah.
does. Like for those, you don't even look at minor league stats.
Yeah,
You
so
literally
like what we just
you
sort of
literally just
talked
look at the
about, I think
vitals.
plays into like comparison between Coker and Sobel. Like Sobel, like reach for the stars pick. Like okay, if this guy gets to an 80, he's pretty damn good. Like his shot at 80 is like I don't know 5%. Like he's almost no shot to get into 80. But like Coker doesn't do anything for me, whereas Sobel, I like him quite a bit in this third round range.
But I like Coker because you're picking a hard position, and if he hits his jumps, he can etch a major league role and maybe get you a. If he looks decent, he'll get you a
Yep.
second round pick or something like that, or he
Yeah,
could
I
be
agree.
good,
He does have a
or he could be
shot.
good on your team.
Yeah, I agree. He has a shot at being a major league relief pitcher that's up in MLB every single year. So he does have a shot at that, but I don't expect him to be particularly effective. I sort of see like
Um,
4.5 ERA again.
two more guys I just want to look at.
Yep.
I wanted to pick Cleveland's Alberto Pensa, their base. It was a defense that kind of shook me away, but he looks like a pretty projectable power power source later down the road.
Yeah,
Um,
when you look at the bat, if you sort of take the defense and sort of like the other crap out of your mind, which it's difficult to do sometimes to say, especially I see this when I'm looking at catchers all the time. Like, okay, if I pull out the catchers like defense, what do I think about this guy as a first baseman? Like, what do his vitals strike me as a first baseman?
mhm.
So it's sort of hard to disconnect those sometimes. I try to do that, particularly with catchers. There was one catcher that had like shit defense in this draft. Let's see if I can find him, but his bat actually looked pretty damn good.
I don't remember.
Um,
Was
let's
he
see if I can find Gustavo Ortiz. Maybe it
I
was.
remember the name. I don't remember the vitals.
Let's see. It'll strike me. I know this is terrible, like dead air radio right now, trying to find them.
That's all right. The millions of people that are listening will not be that upset.
Huh.
And plus, Mike is a ratings booster anyway, so we're kind of this is like our B.
This is definitely amateur hour. Like
This is
this,
amateur hour. This is the B net.
I'm still like scrolling up and down this list like a freaking idiot.
Like the A net has, they're broadcasting to New York, LA, Chicago. The B net, we're broadcasting to like Montana and fucking Idaho.
Revolutionizing the pod game right now. I can't find them. Screw it.
Screw it.
But either way, that's sort of like an approach I sometimes try to take is sort of like, what do I just think about this guy's bat? Um, we were just talking about what's his face from Cleveland.
Pensive.
Pensa, yeah. The bat doesn't do a ton for me either way. After all that, the bat doesn't do a ton for me.
After all that,
But we're talking about the third round.
sure. I was
Sure.
also a fan.
Pensa's all right.
I was also a fan of your pick, Eric Lawrence, only because he could be a second baseman, and they're
I
hard to
literally
find.
just posted the position change to second baseman
I don't blame you.
last night. So that's what I was thinking with
And
him.
when he was selected, I saw him. I was like, shit. I should have looked at him again because He could be a
Yeah,
second
so
baseman.
like
They're
the
fucking hard to find.
bat as constituted at the third base like is below average, but when you think about him as a second baseman, like okay, like this starts to make more sense. Like second
Yeah,
base sucks, right?
and then
Second baseman that's any good, so like Eric
he,
Lawrence has like a bit of upside. Like let's see.
and if I mean, I don't think he'll sniff what Tim Campbell looks like, but I guess if besides being a switch hitter, but if he can get to his level, then you're looking at a good player.
Yep, like second baseman is tough right now. It's really tough.
All right, now that we're pretty deep in this,
I think I want to get one more third rounder in. Blake McGuffey went to Oakland, 85th overall.
Define
This was
Freds.
just a guy. He was just a guy that fell too far. Nothing spectacular about him. I just thought he was going to go earlier.
Yeah, he looks okay. I don't think he's shooting for the stars, but he has good enough upside to, if he keeps developing, he could be a good player. Can't hate. I don't think he's
a little Fred love.
I don't think he's a center fielder. I think you have to move him to the corners. But
I mean, personally, I don't have any problem with him as center field if he comes up and that's sort of what the team needs.
Actually,
I wouldn't feel bad about it.
A guy I left out and a guy I'm actually upset I didn't draft. It actually led me to draft Justin Alex. Actually, 2 picks before Jerry Hartney, left field, Kansas City Royals. Jerry Hartney. If he jumps Hartney, he could be a really good player. I think if you shoot for the stars, Jerry Hartney's a pretty good choice. He's a lefty. He's got the power eye. He can actually play the field. He's got the vitals. He's got the high school stats showing that he's gonna fucking mash.
I did think we reached the quota of Mike talk, but I mean Hartney is a good pick. I guess he deserves a little third round love there.
Listen, we wish Mike was here with his his hot takes and his lisp. We wish he was here, but he's sleeping right now. So
I'm not sure about the hot takes. I'm sure we would be off the rails.
I'm sure he'll be off the rails. He's like, oh, he'd be the next Barry Bonds. So that's my best. That's my best Mike impression.
Yeah.
So
one of the best things about Harden, gives you the flexibility to play him in all 3 outfield spots, and then bat is a good lefty bat, so you just see what can happen. He's got.
You're hoping for the bat. You don't give a shit about the glove. You're hoping for the bat. If he can get the bat together, you can find a spot in the field.
Yep.
You're looking at the, just the bat.
God damn it! Like, why did we have to get right into a Kansas City pick? I was literally about to talk about another one. Now I don't want to.
Oh, because it's Kansas City pick.
Huh?
Go on.
You still there, Bobby?
I'm right here. Hello? Hey.
Hey.
Who you got?
I have got, Alan Norberg. 91st overall. We're going to jump into the 4th round.
Okay.
And of course, when Mike signs off the pod and doesn't really commit to making it happen, Kansas City.
Yeah.
I don't know why that happened, but.
And I'll say, Mike had a pretty good draft, I think he had a pretty decent draft.
I guess I didn't really put that together.
I mean, I'll say
during the draft, it didn't really click with me, but Norberg was a guy that I was looking at. Like, I wanted him to fall to me, and Mike scooped him up. And 4th round is certainly not bad. There was 3rd rounders taking that worse than Norberg.
I'll tell you the next thing, though. Mike's gonna have a long rebuild.
No, Mike does not know what to do with prospects. He's going to be looking at his minors, saying, "How the fuck do I get rid of these guys? What's going on?"
Well, if he goes through a full rebuild, like he's gonna go from let's draft now, we'll suck. It's going to be a lot. When he decided to rebuild, he had no one to lean on. To be like, oh, this is my prospect, this is my prospect, this is my player.
Aaron, who he traded away, but his minors were so. I'm not sure if I've seen minors quite as devoid as Mike's. It was embarrassing.
At one point, it was Atlanta, but they stocked up on picks last year, so now they look like
Atlanta's mileage were Mike was
they were.
getting guys auto-generated because he ran out of players in his team during re-signing. Like Kansas City was fucked.
Yeah, so he has a pretty long rebuild to go, and if he was on,
He'd be a good piece in that rebuild. He's certainly, I mean, the home runs look like an issue right now, but he's also a 50, so you sort of have to. Certainly in the fourth round, you're giving this guy a grain of salt. Like I'm talking about a fourth rounder. Maybe he has home run issues. Maybe he works them out. I don't know. His endurance is at a rating where you can push him either way. You can push him to the pen, and his usage will be fine, or you can leave him as a starter. But you could decide on that in 5 seasons. You don't have to decide that now.
right?
So
Yeah,
good fourth rounder.
fourth round on. In my opinion, you should be looking at a guy with upside, and anyone that doesn't have upside, then you're picking up a guy who's going to be playing in Japan.
Basically.
So I mean,
And they might be playing in Japan either way.
And I'm gonna contradict myself and say like, there are some guys who have limited upside, but who could become players, like a Juan. I can't even go for last name. Shortstop, Isa Kiri.
That's your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, but I guess he's the only outlier that I would say. Like, oh, he has limited upside, but he could be an interesting player. Yeah, he can be an interesting player. But other than a guy like him, you want to get a guy that has 20 upside above. And if you're a pitcher, if you can get a 30 upside or 25 to 30, like go for that. Especially if they're young.
It is interesting. Just pulling up this guy sort of reminded me as a carry. The lack of speed in this draft, and I don't know how much that played into sort of the general hate of the draft. I don't think the hate of the draft was necessarily tied up in that one thing.
I'll tell you what.
A lot of GMs have been targeting these speed guys.
Uh-huh.
As a carry's not like the ideal speed guy. Like he's out of making the majors and being a player, but he's probably the only guy that would 90 or better speed in the whole class.
And he could be interesting. I would say a lot of it stemmed from you're not seeing a lot of pitchers that pass the eye test and be like, oh,
right.
wow,
yeah.
this,
So
pitching.
I'm certainly not crediting it to speed. I just think
no,
the top 10 is worse than
I'll tell you,
the top 10 usually say.
The pitchers were questionable. Not a lot of speed. There were no true center fielders. There were no clear cut number one pick. It was a weak draft. This draft sucked.
You say there was no clear cut number one pick. I think if I asked 10 GMs, there was a
well, yeah. If you ask me, it was Juan Santana, of course. But
no.
Yeah.
Man, coming from the guy who thinks the pictures are the number one fucking indicator of the guy's profile, my God.
Listen, there's something in the DNA. There's something.
Oh God.
There's something.
For those listening, Bobby and I have in-depth sort of talk on this.
There's something.
These comparisons. And my take, just so everybody knows, because
there's something.
You gave me the credit of sort of believing this batshit theory earlier. Like this is total witchcraft. The guys that have similar pictures, you're gonna remember those similarities, but when it doesn't line up, those. So that's like sort of where the whole thing stems. You remember the things that don't happen. You never remember the things that don't happen. So that's it. It's total witchcraft. If you keep it up, you're gonna get burned.
I almost called you Mike. Peter, if you listen to me one day, maybe you'll win that game 7. Just maybe. Just maybe.
Oh God.
That feeling.
Don't go there.
That feeling. GD picked the moving on. Not GD.
Yeah, just moving on. I don't even know where that started.
Is it GD? Wait, why is this guy on maybe there's a trade. I'm not even sure. Oh, I think there's a problem with maybe something happened in draft, but right-hander Larry Caputi. It's a great name. To St. Louis.
Yeah, he was one of those.
To St. Louis. He was picked 100.
Yep.
Similar to the dude from Colorado we just talked about, but to get him at 100.
Yeah, I mean,
And
his home run numbers are definitely more profound of an issue. He had like that 1 year, 17 homers in 78 innings is a ton.
all right, but Peter, listen to me. His overall though in college was super low. So yeah, he was bound to get blown up.
His vitals weren't bad for college.
But his overall is low. I feel like I
Yeah,
feel like it's the overall that really.
maybe.
But in high school, if you look at his high school stats, they're pretty good. They didn't show any red flags of the high on base average or the home runs or like that. And in college,
I think
for being
home runs were a little high in high school. I mean, they're certainly over like 1 per 10. I certainly like when I look at Caputi, we're talking about like fourth round. Like when we're talking about these guys, like we're just like wishing and hoping. Like these guys have nothing. They have the guys drafted from this point and beyond have like 3 red flags each, like all of them. So do I have a problem with Caputi? Absolutely not. Like I'd want him in my minors. Like let's see what happens. One of
I
the
think he took
drawbacks of him,
a pretty good shot though.
just one of the drawbacks of him that I see is his endurance is 85, meaning this guy has to be a starting pitcher. Ability to go to the pen. If you try to convert him, he'll like bottom out at 50 and he'll get like use like shit out of the pen. So he's got to be as good as an SP5 or an SP4 to have an impact. And I'm not sure if that happens. Like maybe he has an outside shot at it, but he doesn't give you any flexibility to go to the pen.
And he's a weird GD type player. He's not a power pitcher. GD never picks the ground ball players.
I'm not sure if he had a list yesterday. I'm not sure exactly what was going on.
Mike and I were talking about this yesterday. No, we're not sure either. But if
Yeah.
he got some, I mean, look at GD's draft.
It certainly cut off about 15 minutes of the draft of Ruben just sitting there. Is this guy available? No, he went 10th overall. Is this guy available? No, he was drafted 2 rounds ago.
Nah, I know he gave him a list. He gave him a
He
list.
did or didn't?
I think he did. Because I'm looking at his picks. I'm like, that's a GD type player.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Ross Good, he's a power pitcher, GD type player. Warner Bedford, power pitcher, GD type player. Wilkinson, actually, I like Wilkinson too. Yeah, I'm gonna vote that he sent in a list. But
All right. Well, either way,
what's up?
I mean, doesn't really change how I feel about Caputi. I think Caputi's decent, but he's still locked into competing with other starting pitchers, and chances are when that plays out, he probably doesn't make the cut when comparing him to most other back at the end of arms.
All right. Well, I'm done talking about the draft. Do you have any final comments, thoughts?
Man, we don't even get to go to the 5th and 6th round. I mean, some of these guys need a little love.
I mean, is there a guy that you really love?
I like Sidney Kraft, actually. He went to the Dodgers in the 5th round. I like Sidney Kraft. I was a little upset when he got picked ahead of me. His amateur stats in college and high school are really good. His vitals aren't fancy by any means, but I would throw him in the pen, and I would end up with a good short reliever.
I'm sure he'll be a Hall of Famer. I'm sure he.
I feel your enthusiasm. Really.
I'm sure he's gonna be the best player in the world.
God, you are fucking this whole pod up right now.
Oh man, I'm the creator of this pod, so I'm chilling. I'm good.
Damn.
You're just a peasant.
I feel like you just smoked a bunch of reefer like 15 minutes ago, and this whole thing is falling apart right in front of our eyes.
Right in front of your eyes, buddy. Any in-season storylines that we like to talk about?
I'd like to talk about FCM trade rumors not picking up any rumors at all. Sprague was like one of like the most shopped guys in the last century. I heard about him on the hour every hour for the last month. He eventually went to Chicago White Sox. FCM trade rumors really is laugh and sort of figure out what's going on, and I don't know how they're missing this stuff.
And it's not even becoming trade rooms anymore. It's spam. All I'm, all I'm saying,
Really,
all I'm saying is spam.
like I'm gonna be staring at the stupid Devil Rays logo for. I think. I mean,
Yeah, bring back the Devil Rays.
goddamn.
Well, it looks like this whole pod went south, and I'm running out of energy. So
Running
it's
out of
about
energy.
it's about a good time to put the kibosh on this pod. But it's
Well,
been fun.
you gotta give me a little bit of playoff preview then, in case there's no pod between now and then.
Playoff
You
preview, bro. Like, is this
you
your
gotta
first?
you
Is this your
gotta
first
put
time
10 more
listening?
minutes in.
All right, it's not even 10 minutes. I'll give you 10 seconds. I told you the Cleveland Indians will win it all. I said this in a pod before, in the preseason pod, whatever pod it was, with G on Talk Shoe. I said the
Okay.
Cleveland Indians will win it all.
Who are
I'm
they gonna
sorry.
Who are they gonna be playing in the ALCS?
I mean, it doesn't matter. They're going to win it all. They might play Houston. They're going to play Houston.
You're sold.
I'm sold.
I'll throw money on this. I'll give you odds that will not
I'm
happen.
sold that the Cleveland Indians.
I will give you 4-1 odds that does not happen.
I'm telling you that the Cleveland Indians will win it all.
All right, put your money on it.
Bro, I'm broke as fuck, so I have no money to give. No money.
It's
Can't
easy
do
to
it.
talk. It's easy to talk these absolutely ridiculous fucking theories and
Listen.
ideas when you're
Listen.
not gonna put damn money on it.
How much you want to put on it, bro?
I'll give you 4-1. All right, so you put down whatever you want, and I'll give you 4-1.
Give me 4-1. Oh man, it's not easy money now. I'll think about it. Right? I'll think about
It's
it.
easy money for me. I mean, you can do it.
Well, I hope it destroys your ass too in the World Series.
Fuck. I'll be losing no matter who I face in the World Series or whatever. Like, I'll be losing the game. I don't have to worry about it. Tice isn't gonna help me. Like, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, man. All right,
why do I bother?
fuck it. I'll give you 4-1. Ready?
All right.
I'll put $4 million on it. All right.
So I'll win $1 million if. All right, that works. And if you win, you get $4 million.
All right. I'll do it. I'll do that.
All right, sounds good. Will be posted immediately after this pod concludes.
And it's about.
Which sounds like it's gonna
It
be
sounds
in
like it's concluding because I'm hungry as shit. I made some pork. I fucking tested it. It tastes great right now. It's warming up. I haven't eaten a sandwich yet. So it's time for me to eat, brother. It's time for me to eat.
Final sign off right now.
Listen.
It was a beautiful podcast. Thank you to all that listened, except for
It was a
Hokie.
beautiful podcast, and I'm very appreciative that you were you were able to.
Done.
I'm very appreciative that you were able to, join in on the fun with me because a lot of people don't want to do it. And he left. He sounds like he's salty as fuck, but it was fun. All right, thanks for listening. Later.